Hello and welcome. President Muhammadu Buhari receives U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the Villa, finally speaks out on the Lagos EndSARS panel report, promises action after release of white paper. Lagos EndSARS panel member cries out, alleges unjust prosecution by government agents following submission of report and their findings to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Bandits attack Sabon Birni residents in Sokoto State. Conflicting casualty figures emerge, while eyewitness account says 21 people killed. Police put death toll at 9. And the Canadian authorities declare state of emergency in the western province of British Columbia after a major storm cut road and rail links in the region. Plus, we'll have international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's economy gradually rebounding from impact of COVID-19 as GDP grows by 4.03% year-on-year in third quarter of 2021.
On sports news, Nigeria Football Federation insists Super Eagles coach Kenneth Rowe has not been sacked despite rumors making the rounds.
From Abuja, railway workers withdraw services nationwide after declaring 3 days working strike to demand better welfare.
The president has spoken out on the recently submitted report of the Lagos State Investigative Panel of Inquiry into police brutality, saying he'll await the outcome of decisions by the states before making any pronouncement on it. This was contained in a statement by the president's media aide, Femi Adesina, saying the President Muhammadu Buhari made the comment when he received U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the State House. The president, who reacted to the report for the first time since it was submitted and leaked, said he would allow the system to exhaust itself on the matter. Mr. Blinken also said the U.S. is anticipating the federal government's decision on the report. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
Arriving the forecourt of the presidential villa in a motorcade, the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is received by Nigeria's President, Muhammadu Buhari. The U.S. top diplomat is on a three-nation tour in Africa, and Nigeria is his second stop after Kenya. The burning issue of security and possible assistance, among other issues, are central at discussions held behind closed doors. During the hour-long conversation, the globally recognized EndSARS protest also came to the fore, prompting a reaction by the president. In a statement issued afterwards by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, the president declared that he would wait for steps taken by states and allow the system to work. He says he will wait for their reaction and not impose ideas on them. Building on this, the American Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who walks in with Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister for a media conference, expands on the conversations, maintaining that the U.S. is looking forward to the government's response on the EndSARS report.
By tackling these issues, we can help to address some of the problems that have been key drivers of insecurity. To that end, let me say that we welcome the conclusion of the investigation by the independent inquiry established by the Lagos state government to look into the events that took place near Lekki toll gate in Lagos in October of 2020. This, of course, was amidst the EndSARS protests, including the killings and other alleged abuses by the security forces.
Against the backdrop of the recently procured A-29 Super Tucanos, the top U.S. diplomat is more concerned about building capacity and human rights.
We're working with Nigeria to address security challenges, including those posed by Boko Haram, ISIS West Africa, and other terrorist and extremist groups. In meetings with the President, with the Vice President, with the Foreign Minister, we discussed the importance of a comprehensive approach that builds effective security forces, addresses the underlying drivers of extremism, and respects Nigerians' basic human rights.
Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister further buttresses views by Blinken, who tells journalists that partnership with Nigeria is not about wielding more influence than China.
We have wonderful relations with the U.S. and we have wonderful relations with China, economic relations, and it'll just be on an ad hoc basis and based on the interests of Nigeria, not on the interests of China or the interests of the U.S.
The American Secretary of State will be meeting with faith leaders in the country to promote peace as the U.S. looks forward to enhancing more ties with Nigeria to confront other issues like climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, also met with the United States Secretary of State, where he signed a new assistance agreement worth $2.17 billion to support Nigeria's economy. The signing, which was done at the conference room, Vice Presidential Wing of the State House, is development assistance to foster global health security, expand energy access, economic growth, and revitalization of democracy. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
The United States Secretary of State, Antony Blinken's visit to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is focused on collaborations and agreements sealing these collaborations. Agriculture, security, health, and infrastructure are just some of the areas where collaborations are expected, according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. However, he calls for ease of travel between both countries.
We hope that the Secretary would also help to ease the visa challenges that Nigerians wishing to enter the U.S. have.
Nigeria's infrastructure deficit is $3 trillion, according to Moody's Investors Service. And according to Secretary Blinken, the progress from this cooperation, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, is crucial.
We know that there is much that we can do together to build our economies back even stronger after the pandemic, and much of that goes to the right kinds of investment in infrastructure, in green economies, in making sure that the investments we're making together are really a race to the top for our people.
The Vice President also stresses the importance of these agreements, especially in the areas of infrastructure, climate change, and intelligence support to fight terrorism.
The challenge of terrorism, especially of the sort we've seen, ISWAP and Boko Haram and ISIS, is that it will fester and it can really take on the kinds of dimensions that may turn out to be much more grave than we ever thought. So I think that we need to do working together again a lot in that particular respect.
The 2021 to 2026 $2.17 billion Development Objectives Assistance Agreement between Nigeria and the United States is signed in the presence of the Vice President. The signings done here today in the State House in Abuja between the United States government and the Nigerian government have to do with broader access to energy, health, security, and national security, among other issues. Mr. Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is glad for these collaborations as they will help to bridge a lot of the gaps in infrastructure and national security in the country. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Following the report of the Lagos State NSAS Judicial Panel of Inquiry, the Minority Caucus in the House of Representatives is accusing the federal government of a cover-up. A statement by the minority leader, Ndudi Elumelu, says that the confirmation of a massacre of young Nigerians by security forces suggests a high-level state-backed conspiracy against Nigerians. The statement reads in part, the confirmation by the Lagos panel that there was indeed a massacre at the Lekki tollgate during the 2020 NSAS protest in Lagos, and that APC government-controlled security forces carted away bodies and mopped up evidence, places a huge burden on the federal government, which had vehemently denied any killings. While commiserating with the families of victims and commending the Lagos State NSAS panel, the Minority Caucus also criticizes the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, for consistently insisting that there were no killings ahead of the panel's report. And a member of the Lagos Judicial Panel of Inquiry into the NSAS protests and police brutality, Mr. Ebolu Adegborua, claims that members of the panel are being accused of collecting bribe in the course of their assignment. The senior advocate of Nigeria said in a statement that all manner of allegations have been made against them by those he referred to as agents of government since their report was submitted to the governor of Lagos State on November the 15th, 2021. In his words, the Lagos State government asked for 2 weeks to enable it release a white paper on the reports submitted to it by the panel, and we have been waiting, but it would seem that the Lagos State government has now unleashed mindless propaganda upon panel members, whilst at the same time asking for restraint from the general public. He affirmed that no member of the panel lobbied to be appointed into the panel by the state government. According to him, it's unfair to seek to denigrate their reputation for accepting to render selfless service while vowing that nothing will stop them from defending their integrity. He appealed to the Lagos State governor to call all agents of the state to order and to keep his promise to release a white paper on the report within 2 weeks and send it to the National Economic Council. Police personnel whose conduct runs contrary to the rules of engagement will no longer go scot-free. And that's the position of the Minister of Police Affairs, Mohammed Dingyadi, who explains that there should be consequences for bad conduct. He was speaking with journalists today during the launch of a new portal devoted to erring policemen or team of officers in Lagos. He also weighs in on other issues of public interest, such as the NSAS report.
You see, this administration is for transparency, is for accountability. Mr. President wants to be accountable to the people of this country, and that is why we're encouraging this transparent arrangement where the public will have the opportunity to report cases of infractions by the police in this country. And we are trying to ensure that the police is also made aware of their responsibility. They are there to serve the public, they are there to be humane, and they are there to be democratic. And that's why we're here to enlighten the police and the public on each other's responsibilities. We understand the NSAS report is out. We're waiting for feedback from the Lagos State government. You know, this report has been handed over to the Lagos State government. I understand they have set up a committee of white paper committee. So until they finish, until we know what is due to us, we cannot comment on what is yet not before us. So, but we are glad that actions are being taken, and we want to assure Nigerians that whatever we're supposed to do, we will do as far as this matter is concerned.
In part two, after the break, House of Representatives Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila intervenes in the dispute between federal government and ASU as both parties agree to renegotiate initial agreement on revitalization of universities. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari receives U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the Villa, breaks silence on the Lagos NSAS panel report. Lagos NSAS panel member cries out, alleges unjust persecution by government agents following submission of reports and their findings. Bandits attack Sabon Birni residents in Sokoto State. Conflicting casualty figures emerge, while eyewitness account says 21 people killed. Police put death toll at 9. And the Canadian authorities declare state of emergency in the western province of British Columbia after a major storm cut road and rail links in the region. At least 9 people have been reported killed in fresh attacks by bandits in Sabon Birni local government area in the Eastern Senatorial District of Sokoto State. A number of casualties were confirmed by the State Police Command, but a former chairman of the local government area, Idris Gobir, told Channels Television that 21 people were killed in the attack. This latest attack comes on the heels of an attack earlier in Ilela community, also in Sokoto State, where 43 people were said to have been killed by suspected bandits. On the Sabon Birni attack, Mr. Gobir said the bandits killed 8 persons in Saginrawa village and 4 in Sabindawa, and there were 3 killed in Garin Gado village. The Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal, had earlier led top government officials on a condolence visit to the people of Ilela. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has met with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, as well as the Ministers of Finance and Education, aimed at preventing the impending strike by the academic union. At the end of the meeting, ASU and the federal government agreed to renegotiate the initial agreement on revitalization of universities. While the federal government says that the 1.3 trillion naira is unrealistic at the moment, the Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajoba, says the renegotiation process will commence in 1 week. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
Yes. Following a motion in the Green Chamber on Tuesday, the Speaker of the House of Representatives meets with the Minister of Finance and that of State for Education, as well as the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. The meeting is an intervention by the House to avert an impending strike by the academic union over what it describes as a breach of agreement by the federal government. One of the issues in contention is the Revitalization Fund agreement, which the federal government is unable to meet, as ASU agrees to a renegotiation.
There might be also a need to sit back and look at a long-term view, because 1.3 trillion is a very large amount of money to raise, even though there was commitments from 2009, then 2013. But the situation physically now is not the same as it was at that time.
The Commission Delegation will work with the minister, Honourable Minister, correct? And for the renegotiation, and they will get back to you on that. Mr. President, sir, are we on the same page? They said 1 week.
By this time next week, we can reconvene all the potpourri of committee members.
Meanwhile, the 22 billion naira earned allowances for members of the union is one issue which ASU insists cannot be negotiated.
Money is not in our cost today, it's in the cost of Ministers of Finance. So normally we give them a schedule like this with the universities, how many, that's what I said earlier, that there is no disagreement with that. That will reach you. It has reached Minister of Finance today, so maybe by Monday they should start working on the end allowance part.
Also, ASU had insisted that it would not be part of the federal government's integrated payroll and personnel information system and had developed its own payment system, UTAS, which it says is much safer in comparison.
What is happening with IPPIS, Your Excellency, is that it's like now you see it, then you don't. Today, you may get salary this month. Next month, you will not get salary. And then you have to leave your job in your university, come to Abuja, go to IPPIS office, and see one lady, our members reported.
In its wisdom, wants a new system, so be it. But please, let us not say that IPPIS is as in that kind of bad light that you are putting it. The system is working very well, and it's serving government well.
While the meeting ends without a commitment from the academic union to suspend the planned strike, the Speaker assures that the ICT and Education Committees of the House would follow up on the UTAS issue. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Let's cross over to our Abuja studio now. Here's Gloria Umezoke. Gloria.
Hello, Ijoma. Good to see you. It was indeed a busy day for the president who hosted the U.S. Secretary of State today. But before that meeting, he had met with participants of Senior Executive Course 43 of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies at the State House. During that parley, President Muhammadu Buhari asked that all gaps in the nation's policy design and implementation must be closed to enhance meaningful progress in the country.
He directed ministries, departments and agencies to study the NIPS report in order to implement some of the recommendations, promising that it would be treated with the seriousness it deserves.
I am convinced that you are now well equipped for the task of handling higher and more complex responsibilities for the benefit of our country. I therefore urge you to go back to your various establishments and put to work all that you have learned. This administration has invested great efforts in the provision of good governance and has made tremendous progress at getting the desired results. This report becomes important and timely in our quest to enhance service delivery to our citizens. I assure you that the report will be treated with seriousness and urgency it deserves. As such, I am directing the MDAs, its ministries, departments, and agencies, as the National Steering Committee on the Vision 2050 to study the report with a view to diligently consider the recommendations presented and incorporate them as part of overall execution strategy.
Meanwhile, the president has signed into law 2 bills passed by the National Assembly, according to a statement by the president's media aide, Garba Shehu. They are the Climate Change Act and the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria Amendment Act. The Climate Change Act provides for, among other things, the mainstreaming of climate change actions and the establishment of a National Council on Climate Change. It also paves the way for environmental and economic accounting and a push for a net zero emission deadline plan in the country. The Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria Amendment Act is aimed at helping AMCON make recoveries and for debtors to fulfill their commitments to banks. Meanwhile, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, also received the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, who led a delegation of 5, including the Deputy Chairman, Public Procurement, in his office at the State House. But just as the federal government is intervening to ward off a strike by university workers, lecturers, railway workers in the country have commenced a 3-day warning strike grounding rail services nationwide. The workers commenced the strike today and shut down passenger and cargo train services of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC. In Abuja, the nation's capital, workers in Idu locked the station and displayed various placards in protest.
The Idu train station at the nation's capital is deserted as workers of the Nigerian Railway Corporation begin a 3-day industrial action to demand improved welfare. The workers, under the aegis of the Nigerian Union of Railway Workers and Senior Staff Association, take over the trains and the rail tracks while carrying placards with various inscriptions to drive home their message. No passengers were seen around at some of the strategic places in the train station, like the entry point, the ticketing office, and the loading section were deserted, while the main gate was locked and manned by police officers. The situation is the same in Rigasa, Kaduna State, as the workers display their placards. This passenger who was hoping to board a train to Abuja is disappointed at the situation.
I just felt bad, seriously. I thought maybe the train is going to take off, but I'm disappointed. I have to just follow the road now. That's just the best choice.
And in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, train services at the Professor Wole Soyinka railway station is also paralyzed as workers deserted their duty posts.
I am very sure most people wasn't aware of this, because I think when I was telling my co-worker we were coming all the way from Lagos because we were at Yaba. So I told one of my colleagues, the engineer, that there's not going to be work today. He said, why? I said, my wife was saying something like, I think 2 days back that the railway workers are going on strike because of due to money, salary, whatever.
At the Mobolaji Johnson train station in Ebute Metta, Lagos, this notice says it all. Train services will not be available over the next 3 days. The unions are hoping that this action will cause the government to take their demands seriously.
When the News at 10 returns, Nigeria's economy gradually bounces back from the negative impact of COVID-19. Real GDP grows by 4.03% year-on-year in the third quarter of 2021. That's on Business News. Do join us again.
Welcome back to the News at 10. Residents of Osborne Foreshore Estate 2 and Lekki Gardens, a real estate developer, have appeared before the Appeal Committee of the Lagos State Physical Planning Permit Authority in a bid to find solutions to the issues between them. The meeting, with restricted access to cameras, held at the LASPA office in Ikeja, with the parties making submissions to the committee. Our correspondent Bukola Joe Oketumbi reports.
This is the office of the Lagos State Physical Planning Authority in the Ikeja area. It's behind these walls that the Osborne Foreshore Estate Phase 2 Residents Association and Lekki Gardens, an estate developer, are appearing before an 8-man appeal committee to look into the issues between both parties. While the session is not open to our cameras, the issues brought forward by the Residents Association include an alleged infraction and contravention of the state's planning laws, a flagrant and unchecked violation of officially approved building plans, and the Residents Association is concerned about the sewage system of Lekki Gardens development. To these allegations, the estate development company at the session refutes, insisting it has proper permits to carry out the construction in the estate. With several meetings and intervention over the last 7 months failing to produce results, the chairman of the association is hopeful that this time the appeal committee will do right.
Where you have a structure, the permissible approval for there is 28 units, and you are building 84 units. We are calling on this appeal to come and stop it before an untold thing will happen and we'll start blaming the devil. We don't want the Gerard episode, and we think that the time is now for something to be done.
While the representative of Lekki Gardens left before our cameras could get to him, we reproduced an earlier interview with the top boss of the company, where he states that high-density housing systems is the way to go.
This time around, it's about people insisting what their definition of sustainable development is as the standard for sustainable development. Asking that you do not go past 3 floors. If you go to London, we buy flats in 20-floor buildings. Why should development in Ikoyi be a 4-floor plan? Why does that make it sustainable?
The Appeals Committee of the Lagos State Physical Planning Authority has promised to look promptly into the matter if a subsisting court case between both parties does not stand in its way. Bukola Joe Oketumbi, Channels Television News.
Let's take a look at some business news now, and here's Anne Waudu.
Thank you, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with Nigeria's economy, 4.03%. That's the rate the economy has grown year on year in the real GDP terms within the third quarter of this year. The latest economic data, which was released today by the National Bureau of Statistics, reflects a sustained positive growth rate over the last 4 quarters since the recession witnessed in 2020. However, the latest GDP growth was lower by 0.98% points than 5.01% recorded in the second quarter of this year. Meanwhile, the NBS economic report indicates that the oil sector contributed 7.49%, while the non-oil sector contributed 92.51% to the nation's total real GDP growth within the third quarter. GAC Motors is offering Nigerians mouth-watering discounts at the ongoing 21st Abuja International Motor Fair. The automobile company, which is the official sponsor of the event, has also unveiled the latest GN8 model with offer of 25% discount. The General Manager, Commercial and National Head Sales at that company, Mr. Jibril Arogundade, says the company also plans to commence full manufacturing of automobiles right here in Nigeria.
It's the 21st Abuja International Motor Fair, and key players in the automobile sector in Nigeria have converged to showcase their products.
We are very happy as well to be sponsoring this event this year.
The sponsor of the fair, GAC Motor, represented by the General Manager, Commercial and National Head Sales, Mr. Jibril Arogundade, says it is to promote the automobile sector in Nigeria.
We want to use this medium to also call on all the stakeholders, especially the government, to please pay attention to this industry. The problem we have in poverty in Nigeria and our economic issues, including forex, can single-handedly be taken care of by the automobile industry.
Outside the hall, GAC Motor thrills its audience with an array of its brands. The GN8, which has a 2.0 gas turbo engine, full-view center console wrap-around cabin design, serene and tranquil space, fully automatic sliding door, easy open power lift gate, and high-tech luxury LED lamp set, among other features, is its latest.
You can buy our MPV at a whooping discount of 25% here at the fair. And you can also buy the other models at 10% discount here at the fair.
Officials from the National Automotive Design and Development Council are pleased with the exhibition by GAC Motor.
They are one of the leading motor manufacturers in the country, and we want them to keep it up.
Tagged providers of affordable luxury, GAC Motor promises more goodies for Nigerians, including a plan to commence car manufacturing in the country.
When that is completed, close to 100,000 jobs would be available in Lagos for this alone, and we are going to start selling the GAC Motor vehicle at a very affordable price.
Renowned for delivering quality vehicles and excellent customer care, the management of GAC Motor wants Nigerians to take advantage of the motor fair to own a car at discount rates and with ease of payment.
Another loss has been recorded at the domestic stock market amid a reduction in overall trading activity by investors for today. Laddie Williams has more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. While the equities market extends its decline for a second day after the seesaw movement we've seen so far this week. The 0.15% drop on the benchmark all-share index you see here is largely attributed to more sell pressure from banking, industrial goods, as well as the oil and gas bellwether stocks, which counter the gains from the insurance and consumer goods counterparts. However, traders say there's no need to panic as the market is only reacting to profit-taking on the sides of short-term investors. Let's move over to the activity chart there. We see overall performance here was not impressive at all. All indicators tilting southwards due to weaker appetite for equities in today's trading session. Well, Friday will be the last trading day for the week. Let's hope the market regains balance and finish in positive territory. We keep our expectations high on that outlook. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
Thanks for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Mwawado. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, Canadian authorities declare state of emergency in the western province of British Columbia after a major storm cut road and rail links in the region. And more international news from our London studio. Welcome back. A major cleanup is ongoing in British Columbia after a deadly storm cut off transport links around Vancouver. One woman was killed in a landslide and 2 others are missing, officials say, and they're expecting more fatalities in the coming days. Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The head of the Women's Tennis Association has cast doubt on an email released by Chinese state media attributed to tennis player Peng Shuai. The tennis star has not been heard from since she made sexual assault allegations against a top Chinese government official 2 weeks ago. In the email, Ms. Peng purportedly says the allegations are not true. In response, the head of the WTA said, "The statement released today by the Chinese state media concerning Peng Shuai only raises my concerns as to her safety and whereabouts." A state of emergency has been declared in the Canadian western province of British Columbia after a major storm cut road and rail links in the region. The Canadian Armed Forces are being deployed to help thousands of stranded residents who've been trapped.
Currently headed to British Columbia.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has pledged assistance during a visit to Washington, D.C. and said troops would help rebuild. It's feared the number of people confirmed to have died could rise rapidly.
Flow freely now. We need to see.
The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has condemned the violence against pro-democracy protesters in Sudan and reiterated a call for the ousted Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok to be reinstated. It's after security forces in Sudan shot dead at least 15 people on Wednesday and wounded dozens of others. The protesters have been demanding a full handover to civilian authorities and for the leaders of the October coup to be put on trial. Hundreds of Iraqis camped for weeks at Belarus's border with the EU have been flown back to Iraq, that's according to the country's foreign ministry. The Belarusian Telegraph Agency showed footage of crowds of migrants waiting for a flight home after failed attempts to cross into the EU. Some 430 migrants, mostly Iraqi Kurds, took the flight to Erbil in Iraq's autonomous northern Kurdistan region and then on to Baghdad. Groups in favour of and opposed to the government of Bolivian President Luis Acra have clashed in La Paz after the repeal of a law against so-called illicit profits and terrorist financing. The law recently sparked protests throughout Bolivia and a partial strike for 9 days in the Andean country. Critics allege the law is a government ruse to seize private property. More than 24 aid workers will go on trial over their role in helping migrants reach Greece between 2016 and 2018. The defendants face a raft of charges including espionage, forgery and the unlawful use of radio frequencies. Human rights groups have condemned the trial as being politically motivated, and Amnesty International has called the charges farcical. Britain's Prince Charles and his wife Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, have arrived in Cairo, where they were welcomed by Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The couple landed at Cairo airport before being formally greeted by Sisi and his wife at the palace and see the pyramids of Giza during their visit. An invasion of crabs has caused road closures on Christmas Island just off Australia. Thousands of red crabs emerged from the forest to begin their annual migration journey to the ocean on the island off the coast of Western Australia. There's even a crab bridge built to help the creatures cross the road. Millions of crabs leave their homes at the same time every year and start marching towards the ocean to mate, creating a flame-red spectacle on the island. And finally, a new musical about Britain's Princess Diana has officially opened on Broadway. Diana the musical had been set to open on March the 31st, 2020, but the debut was delayed due to the pandemic. A film version of the production, which chronicles Diana's courtship and marriage to Prince Charles and eventual divorce, debuted on Netflix earlier this year. Broadway stars, including actress Olga Meredith, hit the red carpet before the show, saying she was thrilled to be back.
It's an industry that employs so many people, and it brings so much joy to so many people. And it's just, it's New York, you know? What is New York without Broadway?
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Welcome to Sports News. Tolaram Indomie Group have won the Corporate Golf Challenge at the 60th edition of the First Bank Lagos Amateur Open Golf Championship, which teed off at the Ikoyi Golf Course earlier today. More than 25 corporate brands who have supported the tournament over the years participated in the challenge, with the net proceeds going to charities under the First Bank Spark initiatives.
It's another year of exciting golf at the First Bank Lagos Amateur Open Golf Championship. Golfers from corporate brands who have partnered with the championship over the years take to the golf course on the opening day, showing some dexterity in their game.
The Corporate Challenge is a leg that we introduced to the Amateur Golf Championship this year because, like I emphasized earlier, sustainability is key. The long-term goal is key for us. How do you impact organizations or impact the society positively, right? So we had looked at partnering with some corporate organizations and say the proceeds from that tournament for today would go to charity.
This is simply amazing. We are interacting with ourselves, we're playing together, we're all having fun, and trust me, we don't really want this to end, and this is just the beginning.
This year marks the 60th edition of the First Bank sponsored championship, making it the longest running golf event in Nigeria.
The main event starts tomorrow, where the amateurs, the top amateurs are predominantly within West Africa, are going to play a 3-day event. We're now part of the World Amateur Golf body, and I can tell you what, within a few hours of opening the registration, it was oversubscribed.
The championship, it's been around for a long time, and it's really contributed to the production of professionals. Quite a number of professionals that are scattered all over the world, and even within Nigeria, within the golf courses in Nigeria. And it's a source of a good tiding.
The championship will be concluded on Sunday with the pro-amateur events, where past winners will compete with invited amateur guests for a cash prize of $5,000, as well as trophies and other prizes.
Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) insists Super Eagles head coach Kenneth Rowe has not been sacked. Rumors have been spreading in both local and international media about the sack of the Franco-German. However, NFF President Amaju Pinnick said that no such decision has been taken. The board of the NFF is currently studying the report of the technical committee, which it submitted after the match against Cape Verde in Lagos on Tuesday. That'll be all on sports. Thank you for joining us. Back to you, Joma.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari received the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the Villa in Abuja and finally spoke out on the Lagos NSAS panel report, promising action after the release of a white paper. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Hunyato. Good night.